Hi, I'm Nasir Stevenson here with Salem Sports. I'm here with Chris Phelps, head football coach. Coach Phelps, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you for being here. So today we're talking about our football program. What have you seen in the football program from the preseason to practice to our first game that you like and some things that you dislike?
Well, as you know, preseason football and prep school football, it's kind of one of those fast and furious type moments. We're not here very long. Guys are coming from all over the country and all over the world, and in a real short amount of time, we got to learn our offense, learn our defense, learn a lot of new terminology, develop some team chemistry. So it's always a challenge every year. It's a fun challenge because we're getting a chance to meet a lot of new guys and new personalities. So I've been really proud of how hard the guys worked. I'd probably say what am I most proud of? It's just that the willingness to kind of keep grinding and keep doing all those little things to kind of together as a team. And we've had some setbacks in preseason with some injuries, so we've had to ask some guys to learn some different positions and learn a lot of new roles. But it was fun to see it kind of come together this past Saturday against Kent in our season opener. There were some times it wasn't pretty, but guys kept on battling, and we came out with a victory.
So you guys would say a part of your culture is, adjusting to adversity, fighting through adversity. That's a big thing you preach to your team.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think that the game of football is such a unique game. There's so many roles that people have to play, and sometimes they're roles that get a lot of attention, and they're in the headlines. And then there's a lot of roles that guys have to do, whether it be in practice or in games, where you don't get recognized, and it's all behind the scenes stuff. And so, you have to be willing to kind of take pride in what you're doing or what you're asked to do, and kind of accept your role. And I think when we do that, we usually get good results.
Speaking of good results, you guys did get a win against Kent on Saturday. In that game specifically, what did you see from your offense and defense and team in general, special teams, that impressed you? Some people may have shocked you. What do you think about that?
Well, I think offensively it was fine. We have some big players, in the pass game and in the run game. You saw, O.C. Yearwood, who we expected to have a good season. He's coming off a great sophomore campaign, so we expected big things of him, and he ran the ball well. He's physical. He's got good vision. He's powerful. So, and he had some big runs. But it was fun to see us kind of light up the sky a little bit. Jake Smith is he doesn't look like much. He's short and he's kind of nonchalant, but he runs great routes. He's got speed. He's a gamer. Loves competition. Not one of those guys who's going to yell and scream, but he had three touchdowns this past weekend. Excuse me, EJ threw for 3 touchdowns, and Jake had caught 2 of them. So, so that was a nice thing. We were able to spread the scoring out, amongst some different guys. Defensively, we had to settle in a little bit. It's always tough in the early games because you don't know exactly what you're going to see from your opponent. Yeah. Offensively, we know who we want to be, and we tried to kind of flex our muscles offensively, doing what we do. But defensively, it's about reacting to what our opponents are going to do. So Kent threw some things at us that was a little bit different. Took us a little bit to settle in. I think probably one thing became apparent, which a lot of schools face, is that we got to do a better job tackling. Our scrimmage got cut short because of weather, and so we hadn't had a live contest yet. So that was our first attempt, really playing fast and tackling. And if I want to see one thing defensively improve over the week is just our ability to do a better job tackling.
Do a better job tackling. There's a lot of good things from the offense. Do you think from returners or new guys, there's anybody who shocked you or did better than, stepped up to a challenge of, like you said, starting in a position maybe they hadn't started before last year, or a new guy coming in and really adjusting so quickly to the Salisbury football program?
I think we had a lot of good surprises, and maybe some of them were surprises, so maybe we expected them. But we had some talented guys returning from last year who a couple all-conference players and some guys who got a lot of experience. And then we want to try to recruit positions that we had the biggest need for. Mm-hmm. So, and I think those guys kind of did what we expected them to do. We had one guy who had a great game for us who really stepped up is somebody who's been with us for a while. That's Liam Conley.
Sure.
Playing inside a linebacker position. He's a little bit undersized of your typical linebacker, but played really, really fast, played with a lot of emotion. And, as it turned out, he ended up being our defensive player of the game for us, which was a nice surprise. Not that we weren't excited about him, just said, it's one of those guys. I still remember when I was a young guy, and you're saying, when he was playing JVs and, I was contributing and doing a great job at the varsity level.
What do you think is a big part of kind of building team chemistry? I know preseason is obviously a big part of that, having 3 days for a week with the same people every day. That could definitely build team camaraderie. But what do you think has been a big part of building team chemistry? Because there is a big mix of returners and new guys this year.
I think that's one thing people overlook sometimes with prep school football is that half our teams are going to be brand new every year.
Yeah.
We practice together as a football family, which is ninth graders who have never played before, and then postgraduates who are trying to get an extra year of high school football. So there's a wide range of talent, and half our team's going to be new every year. So I really think the key to it is our returners. When I came here in 2010 for my first season, I was really surprised it didn't matter what year in school they were. They could be a fourth or fifth former. They didn't have to be a senior, but they knew what the culture was like. They knew what the school was like, and that leadership opportunity for returners, I think, is a big part of developing team culture.
Speaking of leadership, we have 3 captains that were elected this year. Cooper Long, Ish, and O.C. Yearwood. How do you think they've stepped up to the leadership roles as captain?
Well, it's interesting. They're very, very different personalities. You got Cooper Long, is high intensity. You get him in a game, sometimes I gotta reel him in because he's running around showing so much intensity. But he's a high intensity type player. Ish is a real competitive kid, but not a yeller or screamer. But I think he does a great job as kind of in that quiet leadership role. And OC's an interesting leader because he's such a highly touted athlete. And so sometimes that can be tough to lead from that position, and sometimes it's easier to lead for him. And so him getting an opportunity to kind of challenge himself to develop some leadership skills as an underclassman, I think will benefit us and also benefit OC.
That's nice. That's good to hear. So you think beyond winning games, because obviously winning games is fun and important. Beyond winning games, though, you think that player development is a big part of the program?
I think it has to be. We're never going to have a lot of depth. We haven't, it's been quite a while since we've had a lot of depth. So, and you can only bring in so many guys, and so we have to we build around the guys that have proven that can play against anybody in our league. So this past year when we went out and started recruiting, we built around the Cuffs and Ish, and Long and OC. And in yourself, and say, okay, we have some depth in some places, and then we try to, kind of fit our position needs there. Meanwhile, what we're trying to do is develop some younger players, and like Liam did, as we just spoke about. So it's kind of, there's not a lot of wiggle room in there. You got to hope that you don't miss in recruiting. You've got to hope that people can continue to play and stay healthy. And if you can do that, I think you can be pretty competitive in our league. I think the one thing that you're well aware of, because you've played in this league, is that there isn't an easy week. Yeah. And so, being 8-1 and being 1-8, there's not a big difference between that because you got to stay healthy.
Staying healthy, obviously, that's kind of plagued us a little bit this season. There's been a few injuries that, like you said, a few guys have needed to step up. How do you, as a head coach and your coaching staff, kind of deal with that?
It's tough because one of the biggest challenges we have is that we have guys who can do what they need to do, but it's just a matter of physically we feel they can do it. It's just a matter of them being able to learn new positions and mentally know what they're doing in multiple positions in a given week. And so to ask somebody to learn 2 or 3 different positions that have different responsibilities and keys takes you away from getting better at one position. So that's where the tough part is. So, but we're real lucky. We got a great staff. They work really hard, really knowledgeable, and so they take it personal, that challenge, and when we hit those challenges, we're going to do the best we can to prepare.
Speaking of preparation, you have Brunswick this coming week. How are you guys looking to prepare for them, and honestly for the rest of the season? Like you said, there's no easy week. So how do you guys prepare?
Yeah, I mean, for people who have followed Salisbury football for the past 16 years, have known there's been a lot of changes in our league.
Yeah.
And really the only 2 teams on our schedule that we've played every year since I've been here is Brunswick and Avon. And so this is an opponent we know really well. They got a great program down there. They work, They got a lot of numbers. They got a good coaching staff. They got some talent down there. So, we know they're going to be well prepared coming in, and we're going to have to, be prepared as well. I think the challenge this week for us has been kind of managing, getting people back healthy and rested and recovered from a very physical game versus Ken.
Mm-hmm.
So, setting up so they can get, we can be ready to play at full speed come Friday night, but at the same time, get the reps that we need so we can play fast and execute kind of assignment football.
There's been a lot of new, like you said, half the roster is new every year, but there's also a couple new coaches. Dylan Sanchez came in last year. Now with Coach Gill leaving, you have Coach O. Can you talk about kind of what type of coach he is and what he's done for the program?
Hey, Coach O's been fun to have around. Yeah. He's a young guy. He's passionate about being a coach. He's passionate about strength and conditioning and physical development. That's what his background is. The thing I love about him most is that he takes a lot of pride in the work that he does. I mean, if he doesn't know, he's going to find the answers, and you love to be surrounding yourself by guys like that. But he's kind of been a young motivational leader for us. He's kind of taken over kind of our maintenance lifting program during the season. Mm-hmm. That Mondays and Wednesdays when our guys are get in the weight room and working on their maintaining their strength while staying healthy, which is really important. So I know for me, there's always an opportunity to learn. And so him coming out of school and having some background in that, it's been great kind of bouncing things off of him and getting some feedback. So he's been a great addition to our programs thus far. And as you mentioned, we've had some coaches recently join us with Coach Sanchez, a former player of ours. So it's even though he was a new coach, he really knows our football family and our school really well. And then besides that, I've just been blessed that we've had a major part of our staff has been together for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's it makes things easier because everybody kind of knows who they are and what everybody's strengths is and weaknesses are, and we kind of play off of those strengths and weaknesses to hopefully do a good job in preparation.
Coach Phelps, thanks again for coming on Sam Sports. It was great to have you.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's really excited what you guys are doing in this this new facility, and I look forward to seeing all the productions you guys put out.
I look forward to working with you again.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.